Hey everyone, Diggy here. Best of Jinx from Bologna, and unfortunately for me, second best Jinx of Lille. Uh, I'm particularly disappointed in myself because I started very well, like 7-1 on the day one into the jungle. Got to play against all sorts of decks and do well against them, but I didn't sleep well. I fell asleep at like 3 in the morning, woke up at 6, and I played extremely poorly. So doesn't matter. Those are excuses. I didn't play well. I didn't get the wins, so I didn't get the jinx. That being said, a lot of people have messaged me because I have a fairly unique take on the deck that I've spent a while building for Leo. And even though it's just one day before Atlanta, I figured I'd make a quick video doing a rundown of the deck, explaining some of the synergies, how the cards interact together, what the general game plan is, and maybe what some of the considerations that didn't make it in the deck, either because I didn't like them or more often than not because I didn't have time to test everything. So yeah, let's jump straight into it, and I'll do a quick analysis of a game, one of my practice sessions, Jinx into Kaisa. All right, so here is the deck that I played in Lille. Um, it's 4 Fury runes to 8 Chaos. The deck is heavily Chaos based. I believe in the current meta, uh, you can probably do just the mid-range Jinx with no seals, which I believe was the first place deck. But if you're going seals, you can either go heavy red or heavy purple. I opted to go heavy purple and try to abuse the hidden card mechanic and powerful spells like Rebuke. Um, Specifically, the idea of this deck is to gain the point tempo regardless if going first or second, and it achieves that by doing extremely strong holds that in the early game are borderline unbreakable for most decks in the format. And after achieving a hold to gain the point tempo, pull back, curve into a forerunner, and try to work from there to keep double scoring every turn. So let's start with the battlefields. The battlefields that I've chosen were Zone Warrens Game 1, Candlelit Sanctum going first, and Minefield going second. The idea behind them, Zone Warrens Game 1 is really good because it helps us filter our hand, and especially the first game before Sideboard. Maybe against Victor, our rebukes or switcheroos are pretty bad. Maybe we don't need extra 2-drops after drawing them turn 1 and turn 2. So the zone is really good. It's also the best battlefield for Jinx Rebel because any unit conquering Zone Warrens can ready her, so she effectively is accelerated always when we're playing on zone. So I wouldn't change that. Candlelit is a little bit up in the air. The idea of Candlelit is we are drawing usually 2 cards per turn, but it's very important that those cards are impactful. So if we can prepare them with Candlelit, it's much better the quality of our cards. And that's one of the main issues with Jinx. Like, it's not card advantage per se because we are often drawing 2 cards per turn. It's more like we're playing whatever we get, which is not always what we want to be playing. So Candlelit helps that a little bit. If I'm changing one battlefield, it would be Candlelit though. Minefield is going second battlefield. The idea of Minefield was also fairly straightforward. We're playing Last Rites, potentially 2 after Sideboard. So we want the Minefield to be able to equip Last Rites more consistently because with no discard from Zone, it gets a little bit expensive on our trash. So sometimes we run out of trash. And here is the moment where I say this deck started off as a Rasa deck. I started off with the Rasa idea. I quickly abandoned it when I realized that when we're playing 2-drops and Rasa, 2-drops with Last Rites, they very often die after they conquer. So even if we get a trigger of Last Rites, it's very rare to get a hold with Last Rites, and we need to keep equipping it. And if we have to keep equipping it, we are taxing our trash. So Rasa, more often than not, ended up being a dead card. And the deck with Rasa would have to look very different from this aggro/tempo pile that I have. And this is why Rasa didn't make it. About going back to the battlefields, I'm just gonna give you the considerations I have. So the first one for going first is Arena's Greatest. It's always great for aggro decks. No way to go bad with. I don't think it's possible for it to be bad. The second one is Bandotry for going first or for the neutral one and moving zone to another spot. So the idea with Bandotry is we have a lot of cards that we can hide, and I'll talk about it in the play patterns of the deck in a bit. But the idea is that we can double hide for our early super stronghold, and when we do that, it's even more unbreakable and even easier to get the point lead in the early game. And the last one is a going second Forge of the Fluffed. It deals with the issue of last right equip. The only main downside of it that I have with Forge is that some other decks like Lucian, for example, or Mastery, they use it potentially better than us. So it could be helping some other decks a lot more. While, let's say, Zone Warrens were probably the best user, even if other decks also like it. Minefield, I believe there is a single deck in the meta, and that's Annie, that uses it well. And for every other deck, it's straight up a bad battlefield. It also helps us a lot from hand information perspective. For example, I had a game where against Irelia, I see her trash the not so fast on a minefield. Then I play a rebuke in a situation where it's not important and I get not so fasted. So now I know two not so fast are gone. And this allowed me to set up a play with switcheroo later on for a hold to 8 points, where I know that I've already taxed like one of the not so fast and the other one was discarded. So that's why I like Minefield. But again, it's not mandatory. So those are the considerations I had. Okay, so let's go over the cards real quick. Jinx Rebel, this is my favorite Jinx. I really wanted to like the red one, and in my initial deck that I had prepared before the bans came out, I was playing the red Jinx specifically to synergize with Scrap Heap. Now that we have no Scrap Heap, like the only real good discard we have is Chompers, which are, I wanted them to be good, but I really wanted to make like a deck that does miracle style stuff with battering rams and chompers, but it just doesn't happen. There isn't enough draw. Like maybe if we had Scrap Heap and Detonate, it would be enough, but we don't have it. So anyway, I always like the Rebel. She's really great. She can untap. There are many ways she can get ready. So in this deck, the way Rebel gets ready is you can accelerate her with Rek'Sai from the champion zone. Keep in mind that he gives accelerate to your chosen champion. You can accelerate her by having any unit that conquers zone, or by having any unit that conquers any battlefield when you have a rocket in trash, and then you proc the rocket and you ready your Jinx. You can also ready her with Traveling Merchant, just moving anywhere, and obviously Ride the Wind. It helps with every unit. But there are many ways that we accelerate Jinx Rebel. I prefer to play her later on in the game so that I trigger my passive early on. But sometimes it's really strong when opponent taps out and we can conquer over a big battlefield. Also keep in mind that usually we can buff her once or twice, so she's usually attacking for 7 on her own. 6 or 7. Nice. Anyway, going forward, Blood Rush is one of the cards that surprised me how good it is. I don't think I would cut. Maybe I can see cutting one against some decks that we don't need to break, like Victor. But in general, like this is the card that enables all of my small guys to push and actually contest battlefields. I have another story with the Blood Rush where it won me a game on the spot. So I was playing against a Rumble of all decks in the 4-0 bracket next to Alan Zikyu. I even saw myself on his first person POV VOD of that match. But anyway, game 2, I'm going second, and my opponent, the Rumble, plays Plundering Poro turn 1, and I play Rek'Sai turn 1. Then Plundering Poro conquers a battlefield, and he plays the Red Rumble from his chosen champion zone, stacking the battlefield. So Red Rumble is 4 might, but defense for 5 because he's a Rumble, so he's a mech. And with the Poro, that's 7. And because I had the Blood Rush with my Rek'Sai got to push for 8, and that game basically was over on turn 2. So Blood Rush does stuff that Cleave cannot on its own, and it's also very flexible. Like very often, you don't even need the 3 from Cleave. Let's say I have a Forerunner pushing into another Forerunner, I can just play Blood Rush without repeat, and it's gonna do the same job as a Cleave. And in my mind, at least for this deck, more often the 4 might is important, or it doesn't matter how much, but you need any additional might, and then you can just use it as a Cleave. So that's why I prefer Blood Rush over Cleave. But in my mind, this is like the best combo trick we have for offensively pushing. Stacked deck, I won't go much over it. Best card filtration, really important to increase the quality of our cards because we're usually playing on the two cards we top deck this turn. So stacked deck, just for one, makes our next card much better. One flash, this is the card I changed at 11:50, like 10 minutes before the deadline to submit the deck. I used to have a single Doran ring in this slot. The idea of the flash is that there are a few tricks you can do with it. First of all, the most important one, you can dodge rebuke. So let's say you are going somewhere with Forerunner, or you have a Forerunner parked on a battlefield and 2 ready runes. If your Forerunner gets rebuked, you can flash it, and that's a huge tempo swing for you to not have to replay it. Outside of that, I had a game that it also won me like quite a lot of tempo, where I was pushing with something like a Hopeful with Edge of Night into a Fiora board, and Fiora ended up playing, I believe it was a punch first on the yellow Fiora, and flashing out allowed me to preserve my Hopeful, which was like I didn't have a good enough way to rebuild my board, so the flash was really great in that spot as well. It can also protect against other non-rebuke battlefield targeting spells like Comet, for example, into Luxus, Void Rays, Void Seekers into Kaisa if they play it, and so on. And also, it's a very flexible card because with the loss of Fight or Flight, this is one of the ways that we can gank between battlefields. More on ganking a bit later. And one last trick we can do, at least for Lille, the head judge ruled that the Jinx passive, it always triggers, so like at the start of the beginning phase, because the condition is not immediately following the trigger condition. So like if the card read at the start of your beginning phase, if you have 1 or fewer cards draw 1, then it wouldn't trigger unless you have the conditions, so having 1 or fewer cards. But because it says draw 1, and then if you have 1 or fewer, it was ruled that it always happens, and then on resolution, it checks how many cards you have. So let's say you have 2 cards in hand, you can play a flash at start of turn, you can even play it targeting 0 units, because it's up to 2 friendly units, so you can even choose 0, and then draw the additional card. But more importantly, you can flash your guys before the holding step, so this is the beginning phase, before holding happens, and this means that you can re-trigger conquer triggers if you want to. So let's say you want to trigger zone warrants, you can flash back before holding zone, so that you can conquer zone back and trigger again a Jinx Rebel, or cycle your hands, or play both of your cards and go down to 0 cards and just draw a card. So like a lot of things you can do with Flash. It's a nice card. I would like to have a second copy, I believe. Next is Gem Jammer. So like I really like Tide Turner. I didn't play Boots of Swiftness in my list. That's a lot of other Jinxes are playing, but I still want to be able to gank my Forerunner with equipments or my Jinx around. And the way I do it is by having Tide Turners. And because 3 was not consistent enough, I've added a Gem Jammer, so that's basically my 4th Tide Turner. Traveling Merchants are, in my opinion, the best to drop in Jinx. Your most like consistent way to have good card advantage is to get down to 0 cards in hand and just move the Merchant around to draw a card. So if you can get to like a game state where you have a bunch of seals, so you're not deramping much, you can start playing like 2 to 3 cards per turn and drawing an extra card with a Merchant. That's very strong. Teemo is the odd one out. It's very interesting. It's been extremely good for me in a lot of matchups and extremely bad for me in a couple. So I got like straight up demolished day 2 against a Tempo Ezreal deck and an Annie deck. And the thing they had in common was that both of them were playing triple Gust. So Teemo is extremely bad into Gust. That being said, into the jungle day 1, it won me a lot of games where people were not respecting the ability for me to just add +4. So I was doing like just a tap of a seal and a card that replenishes itself because I'm going down to one card, uh, and killing their, let's say, hopeful or whatever 4 might unit Fiora has. So like he was a little bit hit or miss, but I still like him. And at the very worst, you can sometimes just play him and ride the wind. So you have ways to push for 4 with him. Something else that came up exactly once, but is a combination that we'll talk more about when we get to Rek'Sai, is you can do something like hide a Teemo, and then on your turn, you can accelerate the Teemo, because keep in mind, Rek'Sai says friendly units played from anywhere other than a player's hand have accelerate. So Teemo played from hidden, you can accelerate, he's a 4, and then you can either Tide Turner or Gem Jammer and gank over to the other battlefield. So this is something that you can do to, it's just like one power, one energy to accelerate the Teemo and gank it over. So I still like him even if he was a little bit bad into Gust. Ride the Wind, this is the card that like it gets progressively worse the better your opponents are. So like when you're playing against not the best opponents, it's very easy to cheat points into the opponent's turn. And I had many games where I won just because I got to cheat the point tempo off of Ride the Wind in the enemy turn. That being said, if we are cutting cards, I would consider cutting one of the Ride the Winds because they're a little bit conditional. And in Jinx, in general, I like the proactive cards better because I want to be able to play the cards that I get instead of just keep them in my hand and react to what's going on. Rebuke. So this is one of the cornerstones of the deck. My initial idea when building Jinx was, hey, I want to play as many Forerunners as possible. I want to abuse Forerunner because this is one of the best cards in the format, tempo-wise. And what's the best card against Forerunner? It's Rebuke. So this is the card that I want to always play against my opponent's Forerunners. This is the card that I want to play against Irelia, and in general, decks like Lucian or anything else that goes really tall, Rebuke is really good against. It's our out into decks like Ornn. If they make like this really big Ornn, what we can do is try to, at least after sideboard, get the Bring Here Rebuke. So just go to 7 points, Bring Here Rebuke, and win from there. Switcheroo is similar to Rebuke, a little bit worse, like actually much worse into Forerunner, but much better into tall units like Irelia. What's really unique about this deck is that it's very easy to hide an early game Switcheroo. I'll just paint a picture really quickly, and unfortunately I'm really bad at video editing stuff, so I probably won't do much of editing here, but just imagine this sequence. Like opponent is playing turn 1, let's say this was actually a real game. It was a Fiora. Fiora goes first and she plays Honest Broker for turn 1. Then my turn 1, I play a Rek'Sai or a stacked deck Hopeful, not sure, one of those, but it was a big unit, like with 4 might attack. So now my opponent is in a situation where they need to either commit to protecting their guy, like they probably can keep one rune open and play for a punch first, but do you really want to punch first on turn 2? Probably not. So instead they opted to just play yellow Fiora in base, because you remember the story I mentioned with the Rumble, right? Like if they conquer with the 2 might unit and stack another 4 might unit, I'm probably just running that over with my Rek'Sai, so it's not really correct. So they ended up playing yellow Fiora, like the one that when it's mighty gets ganking and deflect and whatnot, but played it in base and didn't conquer. So now it's my turn, and this is where I get the point tempo from Jinx going second. I conquer with the Rek'Sai. I did something like play a Seal, play a Traveling Merchant, play a Noxus Hopeful, and tap the Seal to hide the Switcheroo. So now in this battlefield, I have what? I have the 3 Rek'Sai, the 4 Hopeful, 7, 8, 9 with the Traveling Merchant, and I have a Switcheroo hidden. Like how is anyone beating that? And what ended up happening is I got to, like, they conquered the other battlefield. On my turn, I got to move the Merchant back, cycle another card, develop a Forerunner in base or on the battlefield. I don't even remember anymore. But the point is that Uh, I'm I'm capable with this deck specifically to hide switcheroo early, and I don't mind throwing it away. Like it's not that important to keep it in hand for like 5 turns in the future, as it might be for other decks. Like in this deck, I can kind of just hide whatever I have. Like I can hide a Teemo, hide a Titurner, hide an Edge of Night, hide a switcheroo, and they're all decent hides, especially when I can do it off of a seal. So yeah, Edge of Night. This is one of the better cards we have against Kaisa, in general against any removal, to just push the Jinx out of Singularity range or double Falling Star. It also, like, just putting it on a Forerunner to become an 8 might unit fights really well with almost everything that's out there. And if the Forerunner dies, then equipping Edge of Night on the Little Mechs makes for really good upgrades down the line. So I'm really considering even a third copy, but for now I have two specifically for the games where I don't get a seal because it's very resource intensive. I have 3 equipments total. I could go to 4, but it would be resource intensive when not getting a seal. Last Rites. So this is the card that's specifically there to help me into the grindy matchups. So my deck, the way I've built it, it's very low curve. So it's very early in the game, like usually turn 2 or turn 3, where I run out of cards in hand. So I'm down to like 1 card and I proc the Jinx passive. And having Last Rites is the thing that allows me to keep up the tempo and keep up playing units. So most of the time from the Last Rites, I'm playing things like a Merchant, a Hopeful, a Rek'Sai, like those are my mainstay units, or I'm playing a thing like a Tide Turner or a Gem Jammer when I want to get the ganking effect this turn specifically. So it's very rare. Like if you get to Last Rites a Forerunner, you're probably already winning the game quite by a lot because it's a lot of tempo. But it's a really good card to allow us to, like, let's say on a turn where we draw double spell, that it allows us to play units. And usually we have some units in base. Like very few decks in the current meta can just clear us or wipe us our entire board. And even the ones that can wipe our entire board, like Kaisa, for example, we have ways to still equip the Last Rites. So a common play pattern that I have with Last Rites is, let's say, from an empty board, and the Last Rites in play, I'm going to accelerate a Rek'Sai from hand. I'm going to equip the Last Rites. So Rek'Sai is a 5. Kaisa doesn't have many spells that on action speed kill a 5 might. They usually play very slow spells like Falling Star, Singularity, Catian Rain that kill this. They even cut Void Seekers nowadays, so they're just like double Stupefy, Hextech Ray, or double Ray is what kills her. So assuming they don't have that, we get to conquer a battlefield, and then from our trash, we can accelerate a Noxus Hopeful with the Rek'Sai, and that Noxus Hopeful accelerated can conquer the other battlefield. And suddenly, like from 0 board, we are in a situation where Kaisa needs to Singularity us again next turn. And if we have an Edge of Night as well there, then all of a sudden they can't even Singularity because Rek'Sai is a 7. They need to do Singularity Stupefy. And we can do it all over again next turn because we only really use the single card from our hand. Noxus Hopeful, not much to talk about the Noxus Hopeful. It's a really good unit. Like usually we play it for 2, 2 for 4. 4 is a really good breakpoint. That's about it. Super Mega Death Rocket. This card, I started with a single one, but I moved to 2, and there are a couple of really good things you can do about it. So the first thing that's really important for the Super Mega Death Rocket is that it deals 5 damage. So let's say you're playing against an Irelia, they're not allowed to play turn 2 tap out for Green Irelia or turn 2 tap out for Stellacorn, because if they do it, you can just Super Mega Death Rocket them, and they're like, even with the deflect of the Green Irelia, it's like the easiest way to get rid of her if they disrespect it. Another thing that it's really good about is when you have double Super Mega Death Rocket in your trash, you can conquer with Jinx Rebel and then discard a card to get the rocket, ready the Rebel, give the Rebel ganking, go to the other battlefield, and now you don't need to discard another card because you can discard a rocket to get another rocket. So you can just cycle the rockets and essentially have like a Doran's Ring on her, but without needing to commit to the equipment. So it's a really good card, and it's really good into grinding matchups as well. Like in some games against Kai'Sa, for example, Kai'Sa ends up on hands with that are very spell heavy with few units. So like not always, sometimes they're unit heavy, but when they're spell heavy, they have few units. You can kind of just kill everything with just the rocket and getting it back every time and replaying it every turn. And yeah, the last card is Pharaoh's Forerunner. Not much to say. One of the best cards in the format. If you don't have Rebuke, you have a really hard time cleanly answering. You need to uh, kill the Forerunner, maybe like with a recruit with Imperial Decree, and then Bellows Breath the mix in the backline. This is probably the cleanest. Or like you're a Kai'Sa and you do Singularity and then Falling Star, but it's like so expensive on your runes, even on Kai'Sa. So yeah, it's just a really good card. So playing 3 of because I want to play turn 3 Forerunner in as many games as I possibly can. And going through the sideboard, Factory Rico, I have a lot of equipment that I like, so I didn't want to play uh, the Thermal Beam, and to be honest, I prefer the little bit more tempo-oriented playstyle, where Factory Rico is really good. So it's really good into Irelia, just bounce their uh, Guardian Angel when you're about to kill Irelia so that you can kill her. You can bounce things like Aurora to buy yourself around and have them tap out 2 rounds in a row. You can play it against Azir, like bouncing a BF Sword into Azir, into Fiora is really powerful. This is like a really big combat trick swing for just the one rune. And sometimes even against Draven, although I don't side him against Draven, but there are a lot of spots where they play an axe with 2 runes and you can just bounce it back to win the combat. So yeah, overall a very flexible card. I like it a lot. Goes into against all gear decks. Hard bargain. There's just the one hard bargain. I might be tempted to play 2. The thing with hard bargain is that it's one of those cards that are really bad into Jinx, at least for the perspective of the passive, because this is a card that's very reactive. It's like you can only play it reactively, and you need your opponent to be in a state where they're tapping out to play a big spell. That being said, you're always playing this against Singularity decks, against Time Warp decks, because if you can counterspell Singularity, you're probably winning the game. So we're putting this in against the Luxes, the Victors, the Kaisas of the world. Sundisk is the card that I'm really, really sad it got nerfed for no reason at all. It wasn't that powerful before, but it was one of the cards that this deck really liked to have. And the thing is that now with the nerf, which is, if you don't know about the nerf, it used to be so that the Legion ability, that's a triggered ability, can be used off of playing the card itself. So you could do something like for 2 mana play Sundisk, for 2 mana tap it, and then play Noxus Hopeful Accelerated. Now, the Legion is not active off of the card itself, so that you need to play the Sundisk, then you need to play another card like a Stack Deck or a Seal, and only then will you get the Legion effect, so that you can get an accelerated unit, or a ready unit. That being said, into decks like Kai'Sa that I just mentioned, Sundisk is really good because they usually clear our entire board. So what we want to do is we want the ability to keep scoring when they clear our entire board. Ideally, we want to kill their small 2-drops or whatever they're conquering with our slightly bigger drops like Forerunners and equipment and so on. So having the ability to keep playing ready units, and especially because you can also do it with last rights, so it's like a redundancy on top of the Rek'Sai. You can play a unit or like Stack Deck or whatever, activate Sundisk, conquer with last rights, and then the unit you resurrect with last rights will enter ready because you just played it this turn. You can also Sundisk for your Jinx, so that's another way to have her enter ready. In general, like it's really powerful, but it takes a lot of setup because of the nerf. It's almost impossible for us to proc it on the turn we play it. So it's just something we set up for the future. Second copy is a copy of Last Rites. This is because I expect people to be siding in gear removal, so like Kai'Sa to be siding in rockets or whatnot, and I want to be able to have a second Last Rites, and also I want against particular decks to have it more consistently. And to Brinhers, I didn't really enjoy the Brinhers. That being said, their goal and the idea of the Brinhers is that they're there to help us into the decks like Kaisa, like Ornn, not Kaisa, sorry, I wanted to say Irelia, uh, where some games you can do stuff like there's an Irelia with Guardian Angel on the battlefield. You play Brinher. They say they think they're safe because they have Guardian Angel, so they just say pass, and then you factory recall their Guardian Angel and turn her over with I don't know, like a Forerunner or a Hopeful with a gear or whatever. So it's really good into decks that want to pass into you with a lot of runes untapped. That being said, I would probably look into playing something like a Vex, but I'm not sure. Like on this slot, maybe a single Bring here just for the high roll of it. Because outside of this particular interaction, it's very hard for me to keep the Bring here in hand for the perfect turn for Bring here. And that goes back to what I mentioned about the perfect turns and how Jinx kind of plays cards from her hand because she wants to proc the passive so that she can play more cards and kind of win the resource war. But then this means that the cards are not always played in the perfect place. So just doing Bring Here on an empty turn feels really bad. It's like a vanilla 5 if it's not helping us push somewhere. And yeah, just before I just go to the game, the last thing I wanted to mention is some cards that I've been considering for this deck in particular. So this deck is very aggressive, like aggressive tempo is what I would say. The cards that I think would do really well into it are Sneaky Deckhands. They support very well this concept of holding a battlefield for just the early game with the seals, with the hidden cards, so that we have an easier time getting the point tempo and going from there. Another card I was considering was a single copy of Darius, maybe two. I didn't want to have a lot of expensive units. Like if you look at my curve, outside of the Forerunner, like the most expensive unit I have is the Rek'Sai. Like everything is like 2 or 3 cost. Noxus Hopeful is 2. Rockets you can usually discard. I guess they're expensive, but you can usually discard them one way or another. And it's a very cheap curve that allows us to play everything in the early game and try to get like overwhelm the board that way, and to be very consistent. However, I still think that against some decks you need more ways to do the rat playstyle that currently we only have Jinx to do with. That being said, Jinx is very consistent in that playstyle, and when I say rat playstyle, I mean going into a battlefield and then pulling back. Uh, but Jinx is very consistent because we always have access to her, right? So like against a deck like let's say Aurora, we want to hold one battlefield maybe with a switcheroo or with another strong hidden card like a Teemo and a bunch of might. But then the second battlefield, we want to keep conquering in the early game and pulling back so that we're not giving them an easy death boom. And this is where Jinx is really good, and this is where Darius is really good if we had Darius. And obviously in the late game, it's another really strong accelerated unit. It would be nice to be able to resurrect him. Talking about resurrecting units with last rites, another one that's really good is a Fan. So Overzealous Fan, I can see like cutting a Teemo and going into an Overzealous Fan. So just that we have the possibility of reviving a random Fan and getting advantage that way in the late game. And yeah, with that in mind, and if you have any questions about the deck, I am Diggy on Discord. You can leave a message in this video or message me on Discord. I'm happy to speak with all the Jinx enjoyers, even though I know it's like a single day before Atlanta. If you're playing in Atlanta, I hope this video helps you a little bit. And let's go into the game. Here I have a... Let me just check if it's recording. It's recording. So here I have a game that I played last Wednesday, the Wednesday before Bologna, the Wednesday before Lille, and I'm gonna analyze it real quick. This is the deck with Doran's Ring over Flash. So like this Doran's Ring is Flash, but I guess we have to talk about it. Okay, I mulligan it away. That's fine. So did we win? No, we lost the dice. This is good. Our opponent misses their 2-drop, so obviously we're happy when this happens. Um, Here we see 3 things. We already have a 2-drop. We need to consider what we're gonna do on 5. We have another stack deck, so I guess we're just gonna play a merchant here. Edge of Night is also really good because into Kaisa we want to stack as many equipments as possible. And I think here the consideration was either get the merchant or get the Edge of Night. I'm happy with the Edge of Night, I guess. We need to play around. I'm gonna pause here for a second. This is exactly the sort of play where having double rocket is really important. Like here, we don't have the rocket, so there's that. But if we had the rocket, like we can rocket her with a CO, develop our CO off of the rocket. We can also play the stack deck, and we can still set up ourselves for a Forerunner next turn, and we conquer. We end up conquering a battlefield. So when we can do that, it's a really, really strong situation for us. Unfortunately, we don't have the rocket, so we're gonna have to do something else. I guess we're just gonna conquer. Let's forward a little bit. We're playing the other stack deck. Always play it first when you need. There's a Blood Rush seal and another Tide Turner. We end up getting the seal. Honestly, we don't need any of these cards, so we're probably gonna end up ditching the seal. That's fine. We need to hide the card so that we're trading on board with the Kaisa and so that we don't just get blown out by the Falling Star. We are a little bit sad if they get Stupefy, but they got Cleave instead, so they get to full clear us. And they go to 1 point, and like this game looks really bad, right? They have the Hopeful, they have the Kaisa. I ended up accelerating a Rek'Sai to go over the Kaisa. Here I'm like a little bit conflicted, like do we want to do it or not? We are beating any spell because we have the Blood Rush. I end up discarding it here. But we're beating any interaction spell because we have the Blood Rush, so that we can go over Array, we can go over Stupefy. Well, 8 Stupefy is not even enough anyway, just Array, because we are 6 when we attack. But yeah, we could have also just developed the Forerunner instead of doing the accelerated Rek'Sai. I guess this is a way to use our seal because we don't deramp for the Edge of Night, so that's nice. And developing the Forerunner 1 turn later is fine. Like they need to, Kaisa needs to do a real spell if she wants to get rid of the Rek'Sai. Or in this case, just do a smoke screen. I guess we could rebuke here, but if we rebuke next turn, the only thing we can play next turn is the Jinx. I still opt in to do it. But the Rek'Sai will die to the Hopeful. The silver lining is that we got to 1 card, so that we can draw 1 more card off of this. But now we'll have to just play the Jinx and attach the Edge of Night so she doesn't die to Singularity. And I'm not really happy about it, but it is what it is. I guess Rocket got repeated to kill the Jinx. But that's the entire turn of Kaisa, and like even though we developed the Forerunner this late into the game, we're still in a really good spot because now like it's really hard for Kaisa to effectively remove this. And we're behind in points, but we have some tools to go back. And the tools are the Rek'Sai and the Ride the Wind. So we have like decent ways to double conquer. And thankfully Darius got discarded, so I guess there's just a second Darius. And he'll be played there. Here we go, 8 to 4. Pretty hard for Kaisa to do anything there. I guess we don't want switcheroo in the current state of the game. Play stack deck. Let's see. Oh, we have another Forerunner. Or we have a Shovel. Both of these are really good. Like just playing a Forerunner in base right now is extremely good. We can even play Forerunner on the battlefield. But Shovel is fine as well, because like the thing against Kai'Sa, we have a single Shovel, so because of that, I think it's nice to have it. And also, Kai'Sa just played the rocket, right? The repeated rocket, so it's very unlikely for Kai'Sa to have a second rocket for killing our equipments. And something to keep in mind with this deck, I really hope I don't. I guess I can hide a card. Okay, that's fine. I said I'm gonna. I hope I don't tap out because I want to have the Ride the Wind just in case. And with the hidden card right now, like even a Watcher has a hard time pushing into us, right? Because we're 10 might, we go down to 7. So like they need at least something like Watcher Cleave to push over any hidden card. Like at the very least, it's a Tide Turner or something for +2 or Edge of Night, which it happens to be right now. So they do the Watcher. Let's see what they send. They send both. They send just the Darius with a Stupefy. Oh, the Watcher wasn't accelerated. Okay. So we resolve the Stupefy. We go 8 to 7. Let's see if they have another Stupefy. They have Cleave. So I hope we just Ride the Wind here. So all of a sudden, like we kind of have the point tempo, right? They're going to 5 points, but we're going to 4. We're going to hold to 5, and we can try to conquer for 6. Like if we have anything yanking in the trash. I don't see what we have in the trash. Hopefully we get to see. Yeah, we have a Tide Turner in the trash, right? So we're conquering to 5. We're playing a Tide Turner. Okay, so yeah, first we're playing a Tide Turner, then we're holding to 5. We're drawing 2 cards, and then we're conquering for another trigger. And we even get a rocket, so we can rocket the Darius. Unfortunately, that means we don't get to develop anything, but it's fine. I guess we don't need the hopeful. Rebuke can be nice later on. Ideally, we would have gotten a hidden card here, but we didn't get one. That's fine. If we had double seal here, we would have been in a really good spot rune-wise, but if I remember correctly, we had to discard the one. So Watcher eats our guy, but like Kai'Sa here, I guess she can do double time warp to win. With anything that is not double warp, I think we're fine. Like single warp is fine. We still just win on our turn. So here they stack the battlefield a lot. And here I think I do something really stupid. I forgot to pause at the beginning of the turn, and I forgot to play my Tide Turner from trash or whatever. Or like accelerated Rek'Sai. So I think the game ends up being harder than it should be because of me forgetting to trigger the shovel. But you can see how strong this is. So I'm going to rebuke the Forerunner. The reason I'm doing it is that if we end up trading somehow with the board of my opponent, I prefer to have the Forerunner in their hand. So like imagine they do Hextech Ray here, which I believe they didn't really play many of those. We are trading regardless if I rebuke the Thousand-Tailed Watcher or not. The only real consideration for rebuking the Thousand-Tailed Watcher instead for winning on a spot is if they're just on a single Stupefy, which I think they might be. If they're on a single Stupefy, then we trade here, but we would have won the game otherwise. But that being said, if I just triggered my shovel like I was supposed to, I would have had like an accelerated Rek'Sai or something to push for lethal and kind of win against everything. But that's fine. Like even like that, we are still in a really good spot. Like I guess we're getting wiped by a Watcher, right? That's like 3. They're 6 and 6, so yeah, we are not playing against Watcher with the current setup that I did. So I probably should not have like equipped all the equipments. But still, like with that Watcher, hmm, did we just lose the game? Yeah, that's fine. This is a really good example of how to lose a game that's won. Like I could have won that game if I just used the shovel to accept to play an accelerated Rek'Sai. I don't think there's anything that Kaisa could have done. So you can see my sideboarding, like all of the good cards come in. This Doran Ring, like this is one of the reasons I ended up cutting it. Like I was removing Doran's Ring in a lot of matchups. Okay, I'm going first. I'm keeping a shovel because I really want it in this matchup. I ended up keeping the entire hand. Not sure if this is correct, but like I have a good turn 2 play. Okay, now I have a CO as well, so it's really good. But I have a good turn 1. I have a good turn 2 play. I get to hide a Timo. So in general, I'm really happy. So Kaisa didn't do anything. Here, it can be a little bit scary to go into a battlefield because she can void like Reyes, but we have to test it, right? Because sometimes they don't have it, like here, she didn't have it. But even if she has it, at least with our deck, we cannot just build a base and stay there because we're looking to progress our game. So I think it's a little bit questionable, but in my experience, when we have a good follow up, it's worth pushing. If we don't have a good follow up, it's not worth pushing. So then we might need to preserve the unit. Like, but here my follow up is I'm literally dumping my entire hand. So this is an example of turn 2 going down to 1 card and triggering Jinx. We get Falling Star, but that's fine because even though we got Falling Star, we're still keeping 2 units. And in the end, our goal is to go to 3 points, right? Not to go to 2 points. But we can even go to 3. Here we can just play a shovel. I don't think we want to equip it, but we can just play it. And we don't even need to conquer Candlelit. I think it's a little bit greedy to conquer Candlelit. Like, we don't need that 3rd point. I really want to keep the Sun Disk because I have the shovel. And I guess the Hopeful is nice. I just need to make sure I have my next turn mapped out. Both of these cards are good for me. Go to 3 points. Is there a way to accelerate? I guess we have 1 card in hand, right? So we're drawing both. We have 2 energy to play the Sun Disk, 2 energy to play the Hope with 4, 3 energy to play the second shovel. That's 7. So we get to play both of them. We get to accelerate a shoveled Hope if we want to. I guess one thing we can do is we can run our Teemo in the Hopeful so that we can get the Teemo and the Tide Turner to recycle for the shovel and then play Hopeful with shovel and swap him back with the Tide Turner. This is one turn we can do. We can also just chew in base, right? Because we are on 4 points. So that's what I do, and I think it's perfectly fine. Because we got to develop the Sun Disk for free, it will be much easier in later turns to trigger it. So we can do shovel in our hand and Jinx for 8 to have an accelerated Jinx, and that would be really good for us. Like the main goal we have on the next turn is to figure out how to do a double conquer. We get a stack deck. Stack deck is amazing for triggering a Sun Disk. I really like the hard bargain here against the Kaisa with 4 with 4 cards and 9 runes because we got to preserve a lot of our runes. I really like Edge of Night. I don't need a second Sun Disk, so I'm never picking a Sun Disk. We ended up getting the Edge of Night. So we can conquer with Teemo for free. Now that we have an actual spell, we get to attach the shovel. And I guess I got the Edge of Night so that it's cleaner to push. 8 into 6. And here, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to just swap him back with a Tide Turner. So Blood Rush is really good for the next turn. Ride the Wind is also decent because we want to double conquer next turn and we will have a really tall dude with 2 or 3 weapons. So yeah, we end up swapping the Tide Turner. We just developed this guy. So the only consideration here that we have is how good are we into Icatian Rain. So our battlefields will die on board. And against Icatian Rain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think Icatian Rain alone doesn't clear us. They need 7 hits because we have, what's that, 15 might? We end up trading. And they do a Singularity. Singularity Falling Star. That's pretty good. So again, like you can see, like this game, Kaisa clears our entire board like again and again. But even with nothing, like as long as we can accelerate our chosen champion, we're always in a good state. Because we can accelerate our chosen champion, we can conquer, and then we can ride the win her, and then we'll win. Because with one rune, what are they gonna do? They're going to do just a... What did I play the shovel. I attach a bunch of things to her. I don't think there's a spell for one that can do anything against me. And I just tried the win to the other battlefield. So like this game should have been 2-0 at this point. But because of the mistake game 1, we have to play game 3. Let's see the mulligan. I'm going second, so I'm keeping a hand that has a Rek'Sai, has a Sun Disk, has a Seal, and Stack Deck. I think this is perfectly fine. The most important thing we want is to curve out into a turn 3 Forerunner. And Stack Deck, like we either need to do it with a Stack Deck or we need to do it with mulliganing a couple of cards to have the most chance to see a Forerunner. I'm happy to do both of these. I'm happy to see a Seal in my opening hand. And here we play the Rek'Sai. So now Kaisa needs to either Falling Star the Rek'Sai, or she'll have a really hard time conquering. Because when Rek'Sai attacks a unit, Rek'Sai is a 4, so she doesn't even die to the Hextech Ray. So like they need Ray Stupefy to preserve the unit. Or they need something like a double Stupefy. Because like imagine they just do a Ray and allow us to trade. We're doing 2 cards for 1 card. And we are not we are in a really good spot if we are grinding into the Kaisa. So here they tap out for a Kaisa. This is something that I promise to you a lot of people will be doing in the RQ. It's just the most common play pattern, and nobody has good experience into Jinx. So here I think we have a pretty clear cut. Let's find a Forerunner. I guess we didn't find the Forerunner. And this is actually interesting because like I won the last rights, but if I have 2 last rights, I could be tempted to just let this one go and get the Rek'Sai instead. Because I need to make sure I'm playing something proactive next turn. And I can do like the stack deck Sun Disk play. But yeah. We get to clear the Kaisa's entire board, and we go to 1 point. So it's very likely now, like they either need Darius Cleave or something like that. Why am I discarding? Oh, to get the rocket back, that's fine. I don't really need the rocket back right now, but it's fine to get it. Because I don't have a good play next turn. Like next turn, what am I doing? Like I like the idea of doing a Sun Disk stack deck accelerator Rek'Sai without paying the red rune. But yeah, we expect this Rek'Sai to die. Thankfully, Rek'Sai didn't die. Now we can even gank to the other battlefield if we want to. It's a really good spot to keep the pressure. So like this is where the rocket is really good. When your opponent is playing just a few units per turn, you can keep playing the rocket. You can, oh no, Forerunner is gone. You can keep playing the rocket and killing their stuff. So here I opt to discard my Sun Disk to pick the rocket again. I'm not sure if this is correct. Like I really like the Sun Disk in this matchup. I guess it's sort of okay, um, because we are killing a lot of their units, but I would very much like to develop the Sun Disk so that it's available to me. So here we start getting into a little bit of a worse spot. We can go to 4, which is really good, but there's nothing we can do to defend ourselves against the Forerunner. I still think it's good to go to 4. Unfortunately, we cycle the rocket. We don't get to draw a card for free, but that's fine. And I guess we got a little bit bailed out by discarding a Sun Disk. They don't have to do anything there. And drawing 2 cards, drawing into the Rebuke is really good. Even though all our equipment got destroyed, we're still keeping the point tempo. And we can develop a nice body off of Rebuke. Now, the question always is, how do we go to 6? And I believe here the answer is pretty obvious. Like, Kaisa has 4 runs, which is not impossible to kill our Hopeful, but very likely they will not kill the Hopeful. So what we want to do now is play the Jinx with a seal, and then discard, or even discard the seal. Like, we don't even need the seal, because we'll discard the Hopeful otherwise. Oh no, we have a rocket in hand, never mind. So discard the rocket to get the rocket. This is the play pattern I was talking about earlier. So like, just if this Conquer goes through, we go to 6, and it's really good for us. Unfortunately, it seems like it will not go. Oh, it did go through. Okay, that's really good. So now this is the amazing part. We discard the rocket to get a rocket, proc Jinx, Jinx conquers, we go to 6 points, we discard rocket to get rocket again, and even though our Doran Rim was killed, we got to successfully rat our Jinx out. And we should always play this Hopeful, because if we get Singularity'd, we need to have something. So we just get stacked by 2 Forerunners. Thankfully for us, they're on Vialmo. I guess it's a little bit scary if they have the Time Warp, right? Because they can do Time Warp into Time Warp. That will be hold to 5, hold to 6, hold to 7. And then maybe Time Warp in Watcher is something that beats us. But they will not have anything else in base. Like, we can even rocket that one guy in base. Is there any sort of lethal we can do here? We're fairly certain they don't have any interaction. So if we fire a rocket into one of the Forerunners, maybe we should have done it before conquering with the Jinx, because we can fire a rocket into a Forerunner, that's 5 damage, then fire a Conquer, discard Merchant, fire another rocket, so both Forerunners are at 1 HP, then we send the Hopeful, and we ride the wind the Jinx over for the win. I think we could have done something like that. But instead I end up just killing their base and doing a little bit of a gamble that they're not on double or triple Time Warp. There's the first Time Warp. Wait, how are they going back? They're not going back. They're playing the Watcher. Going to 6. We get to play stack deck. There's a Blood Rush and Ride the Wind, so that's probably a pretty clear-cut Blood Rush. So Jinx is a 5. When we discard with the Merchant, she'll be a 6. When we discard for the Rocket, she'll be a 7. And plus 4 from Blood Rush. That's 11. 11 is not enough to kill the Forerunners. We also can accelerate something. We can accelerate. We already played a stack deck, so we can play a Sun Disk. We can accelerate a Forerunner from here, so that's 6 more runes. We're down to 7, 5 left. So we can accelerate the Forerunner. That's 3 left, so we still have enough for Ride the Wind. And when we accelerate Forerunner into Forerunner, the Forerunner is just a 6. Jinx can go to 6 with the Merchant. Or we can even just send Forerunner and Merchant into the Thousand-Tailed Watcher, right? And that would conquer and trigger the Jinx. What did I end up doing? Let's see. I'm drawing a card for this. Oh, never mind. Like the Lito was there even before. I was not thinking about it straight, but like from this spot, I can, like, even if I didn't draw the equipment that lets me go over them, I can rocket one Forerunner, Ride the Wind the Jinx to kill both Forerunners, and then conquer with the Traveling Merchant. Which I don't like as much as the other plans because it kind of dies to remove a spell. So I move Jinx back, go to 11, go to 13, and push with the counterspell. But yeah, like if we go back, I think there was something cleaner. Let's calculate again the Forerunner plan. So like if I just accelerate a Forerunner and crash it into their Forerunner, they're left with a 6 on that battlefield. My Jinx is just a 5, but we can pump her eventually to 7. How do we pump her to 7? The Merchant moving, but then the Merchant will die. We can also Ride the Wind the mech. We can do something silly like move the Merchant, Ride the Wind Merchant back, ready, move Merchant again. So that's 3 triggers on Jinx. And then she would be an 8. But we will not be able to gank her over. So I don't like that. If we crash the Forerunner and Merchant into the Thousand-Tailed Watcher, they'll probably kill the Forerunner. So we have a Merchant there. Jinx is a 6. We conquer. She becomes a 7. We have 2 mechs in base. The Merchant holding. I don't like it that much. I think the current spot is the best to win. Like with with the idea of just crashing Jinx into the Forerunners and then like Ride the Winding the Merchants to conquer the final point. So I think it's a fine play, but obviously we top deck better play, so we just win off of it. So yeah, that's all I have for today. If you are playing in Atlanta, I wish you the best of luck. This deck, just a super quick rundown, like in my experience, it's doing decently well into Kai'Sa, decently well into Victor, even if not the best matchup. I had a lot of success into Fiora and Lucian in my run. That being said, the worst matchups are the ones that are running Gust because they prevent us from going on the battlefield early on. So if they see their Gust, it's really hard to push with a Rek'Sai, really hard to push with like a Titan or Merchant to set up that early hold. So Tempo Ezreal and Annie were my worst matchups, and everything else felt sort of okay. And yeah, I wish you guys the best of luck. And if you're playing this Jinx or have any questions about it, feel free to drop me a message in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. Yeah, take care. Good luck. See you next time.